Hey, it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're back strong. I have been out really super sick. I've been extremely sick. I lost my voice. I had a fever, and I was out for a couple of days. So I apologize for my absence, and much gratitude to you for hanging in there. I have a number of other videos here on the channel that you can always access in my absence if I'm not able to post. So thank you so much for your continued viewership and support. And I want to address a few viewer questions that we got in the interim. But before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to those of you who have recently donated to the channel, particularly a lovely gentleman. I won't name your name to keep you anonymous, but thank you so much for your generosity, your donation, and your support. And I'm so glad you have found a resource of knowledge and insight, and hopefully will gain some tools to really understand and work through some very painful, confusing relationships, and to really kind of give you the leg up that you need to move forward and be better than ever. And I also want to give a huge shout out to a lovely viewer. Love you so much. We have a lovely viewer in France who has made a recent donation to the channel, and I'm so glad that it's an honor and privilege to really be able to reach out and provide this sort of knowledge in this very specific niche, oftentimes which is an area that is lacking in healthcare, mental health, things of that nature, really as far as medical services go. So it's an honor and privilege, and it's my passion to be able to provide a resource of knowledge and support and give you some very applicable tools. And as we get started on today's topic, which is really how to understand and know, come to a state of knowing, which is a state of certainty, which then establishes a sense of trust and a state of being, which you can no longer refute or deny, and which is powerful. And oftentimes that which you have been denied access to, or denied energy, perception, and being, and sort of a flow in an intellectual congruency when you have been in a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath, particularly that of a female psychopath. And we have received a number of viewers' questions and comments. We're going to be addressing those here today, but particularly, coming through the gaslighting and brainwashing that is experienced oftentimes as a state of invasiveness. There is a real, and this I feel is really where the wounding is when there is an invasiveness, oftentimes which is interpreted as interest or sexualization, or really being seduced by a female psychopath or a malignant narcissist. And this can also take place in the male as well, because the psychopathic gaze has a way of being interpreted as sexual arousal or sexual interest in their prey. And even when it's within the family, I'll go as far as to say that, because there is a gaze, there is a deep gaze which a psychopath has, which once you're able to identify it is unlike none other. And then you come to a state of knowing that you are in the presence of someone who is lacking empathy, and not just, very casually lacking empathy, but to the point where they will really sort of target your inner state of certainty, your inner state of knowing, your inner state of trust, and kind of living from that space, and will get you to a place where you'll trip up, flounder, and then begin to become aroused to sort of a destructiveness of that within yourself, which is really sort of the life-giving, light of the party, free-spirited, productive part of yourself. The state of yourself which is really in tune with what I'm going to call basically the divine, and the divine I am. And bear with me here as I just kind of regain my voice after being sick. But that is the area with which the psychopath and the malignant narcissist is going to target. And they're going to try to extinguish that area of yourself, because if they can denature you in this area, they've just won. They have just basically put a feather in their cap, a badge on their jacket, a notch in their lipstick case. They have just basically created, another win, another carcass, if you will, to their posse of supply, support, people who they have won over. And so why would they want to hurt, destroy, and denature people at that level, at that invasiveness? How can they target that? How can they get into that very alive part of oneself and denature that state of I am, where you no longer feel okay? They shame the very intrinsic part of people, because when they see that going down, it gives them a sense of command. It gives them a sense of conquering. It gives them a sense of the alpha female. In other words, I can, devour you with a look. They really enjoy that power, and they see the men. They see people who then become really, one of theirs. They become owned by this person. And a lot of men, begin to feel that this is, a manly part of themselves, to be owned in this way, or to be possessed in this way, or to be wanted or desired in this way. And it becomes all engulfing. It becomes really a very invasive attraction, and invasive to the point where you no longer have control over your perception, your values in your life. It becomes distorted. It becomes contorted. It becomes psychologically hijacked by this individual. And it becomes really what a lot of men feel as, or interpret, assign meaning as, this is the ultimate. This is powerful, orgasmic love, ecstatic love, bliss love. I mean, this is what is written about in the movies, the soundtracks. They feel that this is the penultimate. This is the sublime. This is the top of the world. And what they do not realize is that it is an invasive conquering of your I am that is really becoming distorted in what they have their talons on. In other words, like their grip. They have long 9-inch nails, 40-inch nails, 40,000-mile nails digging into your inner core. And it is that core which begins neurologically becoming wired into your emotions and your musculature and your perspective, which then becomes distorted to be reactive to this. So then your body begins to distort and contort, and the men will puff up their chest or feel masculine, and the hips, which should be square, begin to turn out. They begin to misalign their body. They become exploited for their manliness, that provider sense, that manly sense, that high energy, aggressive sense. Let's call it the yang energy to the yin. They become apparently, very yang, but it's actually they're becoming very yin, which means the yielding. They begin to yield, and they begin to really become weakened. And so they become, dominated by this individual, and they begin to feel, that this is desirable, to feel kind of this release of being their manly side to this woman. In other words, there's a pleasure in being dominated. And they, it begins to sort of play tricks with the mind. And then they wonder why, how did they lose it all? How did they lose this invasive, solar plexus I am to this person? How do they feel so empty? How do they feel so defeated? How do they feel that their personal value then is attached to this person? It becomes a real psychology. and it becomes a real disordered and crippling state of being. And it is this invasiveness which is not love. It is this invasiveness which is the really ultimate psychological hijacking, which is what the psychopath is seeking to control and then obtain from you whatever it is that they want. The piercing stare, which is not, of love, which is the absence of fear, which is really to be loved and to know that you are lovable. You would not feel this invasiveness. And that is really the source of the wound, is that you are then giving your all. You are invaded in this very deepest core part of yourself, but that is not told that it is lovable, that you are lovable, that you are desirable. It is more that you are then becoming addicted to the fact that you are conquerable and you are weak. And it is then this sort of submissiveness which then becomes a new addiction versus I am loved, I am lovable, I am attractive, I am, an object of desire. It becomes more an object of weakness. And then this becomes kind of the new normal or the new male. And the issue, there's nothing wrong with becoming, engulfed in productive, love, but it becomes an issue when this is purely a show, a sham, and they have no intention of continuing to, restore that relationship. In other words, it's the depleting of you and the leaving of you and the discarding of you, which is what they are taking on. And then it is then this inner core, which becomes kind of a new victim, part of the identity, which is contrary to that which you had inherently held for yourself. So it is this holding that has become the invasiveness. And it is really it becomes an addiction, or, a restoring to, and then a reformulating, because a lot of men, because of it's so deep, because of this invasiveness, this violation of boundaries, they feel that it's this penultimate love. And I am still, I love this person. When in essence, they had carved out a very deep I am, and began to distort it so that you became what they needed. In other words, you became almost a metamorphosis, or what I've heard described as morphing, or, becoming, almost like a cocoon to a butterfly. They have this sort of experience where they are metamorphosizing to the needs of this person. But it is a very scary place to be, because you are losing control, and you're losing being in touch with that divine part of yourself, and kind of living from that and being tapped into that. And then your senses then become almost deprogrammed from that which is life-giving. And so it is a very scary state to be. It's almost like an oil slick has taken over your perception, and you cannot see clearly. You don't, you become very sort of suspicious. It is because of the invasiveness of their look, of their, it's a very hard to articulate thing, because it's an energy. And it's an energy which has disarmed you, basically rendered you almost defenseless, almost like an infant. And really, and that is the place where you need to begin to kind of recover from, because it's really like that infant that has not yet experienced the world, which is where we need to start. It's in that very infantile place where we need to pick you up from. And even people who have been raised in this area who have been raised by people who are psychopathic, who have been surrounded by or overtaken by people who are psychopathic. This is the starting place where we need to begin. It's that very embryonic space where basically the psychopath has not been able to go. there is a core part of you where the psychopath is not able to go. They are not able to conquer you there. It is really, it is a higher knowledge. It is a higher, what I call basically the quantum field, where your physical body, your psychological body, your emotional body, your spiritual on all levels exists, where they have not been able to go. The Star Trek, where no man has gone before. Okay, that energy exists within you, and it is that high frequency energy which is there to heal you and can be tapped into and give you a state of being where you really need to recover from. And this really goes to all cultures and all religions, because that part of you is that which is life-giving and which is not scarred or hurt or devoided or demolished from. And what I'm encouraging you here today is that if you have experienced that really grave hurt, realize that there is a part of you which we're reclaiming here, which they have not touched. It's like, if you were ever to see a forest, and getting back to the sacred, which I really feel is so crucial for healing, there is, what you might call, a virgin forest, untouched by man for, their uses. The clean air, when you think about air that is not polluted, where it's not toxic, where it's truly, you truly feel you're in the presence of something that is not adulterated, very pure, where you're really in that space, and almost, life begins to tingle back into your fingertips again, and you have been denied this experience. It is that space where we need to get in and focus on, which has not been touched. Really sort of the pristine part of yourself. And a lot of people say, peace and harmony. I have never had this innocent part of myself. I've always been shamed. This person has gotten to so many, areas of my being. And it is my goal here to advise you and to let you know that there is a space of you, within you, which really focuses within the heart. But that is not, the psychological, intellectualized part of you that is always trying to defend yourself, but this, but that, and, react and, fight back. But I was good, but I was shamed. It's all those I'm nots, which have been created as part of, oftentimes people have spent years and decades of their life in there, if not months, just creating a whole layer of being in this. And what I'm here to advise you of is that area of your being which has reacted and tried to prove and tried to be in reaction to that hurt, that is not where you need to live from. You need to tune into a part of yourself. If you have not given yourself this, it is a part of yourself which is not adulterated, which is not hurt, which has not been tampered with, which is not reactionary. So there's a state of being really where you need to get to, and what I'm calling you to focus in on here today, because that is where your healing is going to take place. There is a part of you, and I want you to call it forth and say, I have and I own a part of me that has not been tampered with or touched by this wounding individual. There is a part, and I'm calling that forth. And even if it feels very small, very weak, and very meek, there is this part of you which has the desire to dream and to be and become your best and to exist in power. Not that power which wants to be engulfed, but a true power which is part of you, and we want to restore that. And I realize we're going long here, and I want to go long because I know that, we need to do this. But there is a restorative place which you can reclaim. And I'm going to be going in and doing a lot of videos here today, but it is a powerful place, and it's that of perception which is not ever been touched. So I want you to get in touch to that part of you which has never been touched before. And what I want you to understand is that there's a part of you very much which is like a virgin forest, like an unhunted, an unhunted sea, a sort of raw nature, if you will, that exists in part of you. It's like a pioneer who's going to a new land, but that it's an energetic field, which I want you to feel and experience. I hope you're feeling it now. That there is this sacred part of you which cannot ever, ever be touched by a wounding individual, ever. And it is that space within you which I want you to tap into, because there's an infinite intelligence, an intimate quantum field, the quantum field which is able to restore and energize and give you power. That which is a space which is an energy which is yours and yours alone, but ignites to something greater, which is a direct connection that you have, which the psychopath seems or is attracted to severing, because they like to have that sort of talon love over other people and get you to. I've had clients who have, given vast amounts of money to these people, who have, taken care of their housing, their food, their family, who have, become overwhelmed or addicted and acted outside of their character. And then they say, this was not me before. And they are now, caught in this life. They're caught in this really sort of very cryptic, enigmatic place, which I am helping you to heal from. And there's not a lot of healers in this area. And I don't call myself healer, but I am a healer in this area. It is just what I am. My purpose here now is to help you to restore to this purpose and to this part of yourself which is more powerful than that, and can get you back to that prolific, inspired, productive, abundant part of yourself, which is immune to those hurts. In other words, there is a untampered with, and I'm gonna, it's like I'm pulling for words here. There is an unhurt. The words are going to come to me here. I'm just going to stay in a state of being here for a moment. There is a pure part of you that has not been tampered with or touched or accessed by the psychopath. There's an unaccessed part of you which is calling forth to be accessed, which is the true man, which is the true woman that you are. And it is that person, the part of you which has not been reactionary to them, which has not been adulterated, which is a kind of a really raw, powerful part of yourself, which is what I want you to restore, which is a state of being. And this part, we're going to wrap up here, but there's an area, an energetic field, which I want you to be restored to, that which has not been made invasive to. In other words, the invasiveness, the living for this person, my value is caught up in this person or this community or this society. There's a place where people then spend decades trying to live reactionary lives to this, and they're still going through life, gravely hurt. There's a place of, part of you which I want you to restore, which is sacred. It's a sacred energy. It's an untapped energy, which I want you to realize that is part of you that the psychopath seeks to take, but they can never take. It is beyond their grasp. And those people who have been hurt to the core, who have felt that this person always has a touch, a grasp, a reaction, they always own part of you here. There's a part of you which they don't own. They don't own your perception. They don't own your reaction. They don't own your arousal. They don't own your direction. They don't own this. There's a part of you, and I call it an internal real estate, that you own as part of you, and where your really core energy, which is the I am. And it's the state of power, not versus force. And we're going to get into much more of this, but this I am is kind of a real energetic place where oftentimes you have not experienced. It's a state of being, which I want you to call forth, which is not reactionary. It is a state of true, pure strength that I want you to understand that infuses all the trillions and trillions and trillions of cells, which is regenerative, which is not reactionary to these people. In fact, it's not even reactionary to life at all. It is giving to life. It is not reaction. It is a complete state of giving. It's a state of generating. It's just almost really the state of having love or light within you, which is not hurt, which has not been tampered with. And if you all can come up with words to describe it, I'll know that you're living in this space, because it is a state of being. It is not a state of answering to, reacting to, acting as if. It's a true state of I am. And when we talk about that, it is the state of really divine being. And this might say like psychological talk, etc. But this is what you have, and you need to feel and feel and feel. And I'm going to continue just for another few moments, but it is this state, this raw, unadulterated state, which I want you to tap into and begin to be and feel from. And you need to recite this again and again and again, and allow the feelings to strengthen you in the I am and I feel state. And then begin to get there, because you will, from that state, you will recover your dreams. It's like you'll recover your bounty. You'll be like the two who have been saved on the Titanic. You are free. You are free. You are saved. You can see all this that has taken place, but you're not living reactionary tales. You're living life with your new dreams, with your original dream. It's the original you that you came into this life with. And it is that state of I am, which has the magic and majesty that I want you to begin to feel from. And it is really I really want you to restore that and really begin to understand that when you see, because a lot of people come to me and they say, this has happened again, I'm attracting this type of person, or all of a sudden I was, down and out and I attracted this person into my life. Realize that you attracted this person to wake up that raw, unadulterated, sacred part of yourself, which is part of the higher self, which is the part of you that has the dream, has the passion, has the I am, and then begins to create the art, to create the masterpiece, to create the intellectual property, create the the new apps, the see and live in the solution. You begin to live in this space, and when you live in it, you're then able to identify who is psychopathic, who is manipulative, who is adulterating you, who is trying to take and own part of your own intellectual property, your I am. And this sounds so basic, but we are going back to the beginning to come to the present. We're coming to that very mindful space. And there's not a lot of help to help you get the tools to be there. But what I'm helping you to acknowledge is that in this very video, if you have felt that sort of invasiveness, you are in the presence of someone who is not in your best interest, who seeks to destroy. You need to understand this and and realize that invasiveness, that piercing, that sort of like you just stepped into an abyss, just a never-ending darkness. That is the state of psychopathic energy, malignant energy, narcissistic energy, because they seek to dim you in order to become their light. It is not life-giving. So when you are in the presence of someone who you feel all of a sudden dimmed by, you are in the presence of a wrong energy, culture, climate. You are not where you are meant to be. You need to get away. You need to regain your sense of certainty. And your certainty is in your own wholeness. Your certainty is not in try to restore certainty to this state of uncertainty which they have created within you, because the psychopath will seek to create a complete sense of uncertainty, fear within you. They are seeking to establish this state of fear, reactionary living, reactionary lives, to react to their needs. So your life, you then become to embody their needs. You're not embodying your needs. You're embodying their needs. And you're living from a state of their needs. You're not living from a state of your truth, which they're going to get you to be severed from. And we're going along here, and I hope that, you're staying with me here, because there's people's lives, decades, lives, centuries. Compounded within multiple people who have lived reactionary lives. They have not lived their own life. They have not lived their purpose. They have not known their purpose. They have not known their happiness, because they have been shamed into this invasiveness to say, you cannot be, you cannot be, I must be. So they seek to reduce you at that very sort of quantum field area. And it is that area of healing which I wish to speak to, and with which I am speaking to you from. And so people who have come instead, they have come to me and said, I have suffered for decades. This is my family. This was my marriage. I had lived a reactionary life. I had taken on their needs, and my own were never touched. My own were never lived from. My I am was never given light. It was never given breath. So it is my goal here in this video to give you light and love and breath to that area which has never been touched before. It has never been lived from before. It has never been spoken from before. Your vocalization has never come forth from this area before. A lot of people come to me and they are in their 60s, their 70s, and they are going through a divorce. They are separated from the very family with which they have raised, or they have been raised within. And they are scared and they are terrified. And it is those people with which I am speaking to. And